duty is second nature. It's second only to heaven. I'm sure you've noticed that already. I don't have to tell you that. It's always an honor to be able to speak to a distinguished group like this. I'm honored to be the chairman for the occasion, and I happily accept the invitation to serve as such. Today is a particularly special of fairness in the administration of criminal justice. Mr. Karim Khan is the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. I'm delighted to see such a diverse group of people, students, distinguished guests, distinguished group of scholars, practitioners, policymakers, and advocates who are all here this afternoon to welcome our guests and to hear some of the major issues that he'll be discussing with us in international criminal law. This program is organized under the auspices of the African Center on International Criminal Justice, ACICJ, at the Gimpa Law School. The ACICJ was conceived as a result of a conference, as an outcome of the conference that was held here in Accra at Gimpa in March 2016. The center's primary goal is to facilitate discourses on Africans' role and place in advancing the cause of justice across borders and uphold the rule of law and combat impunity wherever it may happen. Even though the center is based here at Gimpa, our focus extends well beyond our boundaries. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an increasingly connected world where events in one geographical location has significant impact on the rest of us, regardless of where we are. Consider the COVID pandemic. It happened in a small part of the world, or it started in a small part of the world, and in very little time, we were engulfed in its effect. Indeed, we may seem indifferent in the wars in Ukraine, Sudan, the Middle East, and other places, but we cannot be immune to its effects. As these seemingly remote activities have increasingly become our business, international criminal justice has also become more critical in our pursuit of peace, accountability, and the expression and delivery of human rights. The issues we confront as humanity, ranging from war crimes and crimes against humanity to genocide to transactional or organized crime, demand a very coordinated set of actions. It demands innovative thinking, and it calls for a steadfast commitment to justice. Our keynote speaker today knows quite a bit about these international criminal justice matters. I met him for the first time a few days ago when he arrived in Accra. But I had seen him on television and on YouTube. I had gone to search some things about him. And in listening to him, I can feel his passion for justice. I know it's not just me feeling it. I know that is who he is. He has a passion for the effective and equitable distribution of justice. I've become a fan of him, especially because of his ability to express his viewpoints, even when those views are in distinct opposition to orthodoxy. I know his ultimate goal at ICC is to safeguard human dignity in conflict zones, among others. Today, I'm sure he's going to be discussing some of these issues, the importance of international criminal justice as a deterrent to define behavior. But let me not pretend to know what he will talk about, because he'll be talking to us shortly. I just wish to express my deepest appreciation to Mr. Khan for taking time out of his very busy schedule to be with us today and to visit us in Ghana to share his thoughts on international criminal justice. We appreciate his commitment to equitable justice, and we are glad and honored that he was able to be with us. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge all the friends of Gimpa at the ICC who have supported us over the years. Thank you to all of you, and many of you there are. But I wish to make a very special mention of Mr. Dahiru Santana. I saw him somewhere. Oh, he's there. He's one of our biggest advocates. He represents us all so well at the ICC. He's been a pillar to the excellent bridge between Gimpa and the ICC, and has been also a major resource for us at the ACICJ. Thank you, mon ami. We appreciate all the effort and the contributions that you've made to Gimpa and to Ghana as a whole. Now, let us remember that this gathering is not only an opportunity to examine the framework of international criminal justice, but also to reflect on the real-world issues facing us. As we sit here, we all know about various issues that are happening around the world: the Middle East, Sudan, Ukraine, just to name a few. I believe that throughout all these instances, and a lot more of them, there is a large pool of victims around the world seeking justice, communities striving for peace, and societies yearning for the rule of law. It is our duty, whether as individuals or as practitioners of the law, to ensure that international criminal justice remains not just a concept. Yes, we'll be discussing some concept, but I believe that it has to go beyond the concept. It should become a tangible force for good in the world. I hope that this lecture will lead all of us to think about a future where justice prevails and human rights are upheld in every corner of the world, and that we will all look to do the best we can, however small it may seem, that will make some contribution to the achievement of this bigger goal. On that note, I'd like to formally then accept the invitation to chair this function, and also to thank you all for being here, and then once again welcome our distinguished guests who are with us this afternoon. Thank you, and God bless us all. Welcome.
Thank you very much for that wonderful display. While it may look easy, when you attempt to do it yourself, you would understand the effort it takes to coordinate your hands and your legs in a rhythm that actually looks beautiful. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Before I do the next invitation to give us the statement of purpose, I'll take the opportunity to acknowledge some key dignitaries who are with us before we proceed with the program. Here with us this afternoon is the Chief Justice of the Republic, Her Ladyship Gertrude Sabatoh-Konu, and we appreciate her consistency in attending all our events whenever we do invite her. We are much grateful. Also here with us this afternoon is the Chairman of the University Council, Lawyer Kofi Asante Darko, who is also always present whenever we invite him. We also have present here this afternoon Justices of the Court of Appeal. I can see Justice Efia Sewa Saribuche, Justice Lydia Osei-Mafo, and also from the High Court, I can see Justice Rosemary Bartosu. And then from the lower court, we have Her Anna Susanna Edufo. We are grateful for your presence this afternoon. We also have here with us, ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Alfred Tian Yeboah, who is also here with us this afternoon. And the former registrar of the Ghana School of Law, Nana Osei, every student of law in this country for the past couple of years knows him because he's the one who trains us. And also here with us is the Amir of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission Ghana, Mohammed bin Salah, who is also here with us. We are grateful. From the Office of the Special Prosecutor, underpinning the Speaker and understanding why we are here this afternoon is Mr. Sami Darko, also from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I believe he stepped out shortly. And apart from this, we also have from various courtesies representations from the media. I can see GTV, I can see Graphic Communications, and also faculty members, students, and other academic and private persons. We are grateful for your presence here this afternoon. Next on our program, I have the honor, ladies and gentlemen, to invite the Dean of the Gimpa School of Law, Dr. Kwaku Agyeman-Budu, who is also the head of the African Center of International Criminal Justice, and who has been one of the key persons driving the organization of this program, to give to us the statement of purpose and why this afternoon we've all gathered here in our beautiful suit and tie. Shall we welcome him with a round of applause?
Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Justice Gertrude Sabatoh-Konu, the Honorable Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Alfred Tian Yeboah, His Excellency Jeroen Verheul, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Ghana, Mr. Kofi Darko Asante, Chairman of the Governing Council of GIMPA, Professor Samuel Kwekubonsu, Rector of GIMPA, Justices of the Superior Courts of Judicature in Ghana, distinguished guests, faculty and staff of GIMPA, students of GIMPA, good afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome you to the third Eminent Public Lecture in International Criminal Law and Justice, to be organized by the African Center of International Criminal Justice, ACICJ, at the GIMPA Law School, and provide the statement of purpose for this event. Today, we have the privilege of hosting the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, the ICC, Mr. Karim Assad Ahmad Khan, KC, as a keynote speaker. Mr. Khan's presence underscores the strong bond between GIMPA and the ICC, forged through years of collaboration and mutual commitment to advancing international law and justice. We are proud to acknowledge the pivotal role our institution has played in promoting international criminal law and justice in Africa over the years. In 2016, as the rector rightly pointed out, we hosted an international conference on the ICC and Africa, which laid the groundwork for the establishment of the ACICJ at our law school in May 2017. This milestone was made possible through the general support of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, channeled through the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Ghana. Our partnership with the ICC was further solidified when we signed a Memorandum of Understanding in December 2019 on the sidelines of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute in The Hague, the Netherlands. This MOU, the first of its kind between the ICC and any African institution of higher learning, has facilitated greater cooperation, exchange of knowledge, and capacity building initiatives between our institutions. And I'm happy to announce that the MOU is being renewed this year. I'd like to also take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to some individuals who have contributed significantly to the success of the ACICJ and the Gimpa Law School over the past few years. In this regard, we recognize the tireless efforts of Professor Ernest Kofi Abochi, former Dean of the Gimpa Law School, whose vision and leadership helped establish the ACICJ. Professor Paolo Galizzi, Clinical Professor of Law at Fordham University School of Law and founding director of the ACICJ, whose expertise and passion have shaped our programs over the years. Madame Fatou Bensouda, former prosecutor of the ICC, who launched the ACICJ in 2017 and has been a steadfast supporter of our activities over the years. Jean-Jacques Badibanga, senior trial lawyer of the Office of the Prosecutor, ICC. Dahiru Santana, international cooperation advisor of the Office of the Prosecutor, the ICC, who both were founding trainers of the from the ICC and have continued to provide invaluable guidance to us over the years. We also appreciate the invaluable contributions of Justice Sir Dennis Ajay, Justice of the Court of Appeal of Ghana and Justice of the African Court of Justice and Human Rights and former honorific Dean of the Gimpa Law School. Dr. Alex Ansong, former acting Dean of Gimpa Law School and former head of the ACICJ, is also acknowledged here. Professor Bonzi Simpson, Ebo Bonzi Simpson, former rector of Gimpa, was also instrumental in the activities of the ACICJ. And last but not the least, Dr. Daniel Macaulay, CEO of the Magdan Group, for his continuous and generous support of the Gimpa Law School and the ACICJ over the years. The impact of Gimpa Law School's programs through the ACICJ has been phenomenal, with our students and faculty benefiting from exchange programs with the ICC, which have enhanced their understanding of international criminal law and its application, training programs for legal professionals, journalists, policymakers, and civil society organizations, and research initiatives focusing on international criminal law and its implications for Africa. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pride that I state that Gimpa Law School has become the first law school in Ghana and West Africa to introduce a Master of Laws degree program, LLM, in International Criminal Law and Justice, as well as a Bachelor of Laws degree, LLB, elective course in International Criminal Law. This is a testament to our, yes. Thank you. This is a testament to our commitment and drive to ensuring that impunity for the commission of atrocity crimes is all but eliminated in our contemporary world. As we move forward, we envision potential areas of collaboration between Gimpa and the ICC. We also recognize the importance of addressing emerging challenges such as cybercrime and its implications for international criminal law, the intersection of international criminal law and human rights, especially in our contemporary times, and the role of technology in investigating and prosecuting international crimes. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I extend my sincerest gratitude to Mr. Karim Assad Ahmad Khan for joining us today. Your presence, sir, underscores the importance of international cooperation in advancing justice and accountability, and it is my belief that your lecture this afternoon will be insightful, thought-provoking, and educative. To our distinguished guests, faculty members, students, and colleagues, I urge us all to continue working together towards a more just and accountable world. Let us harness our collective expertise and resources to promote international criminal law and justice and to create a brighter future for all. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Welcome to the Gimpa Law School. Welcome to the African Center of International Criminal Justice, the ACICJ. Because I remember when the center was established back in 2017. Actually, I remember what led to the the establishment of the center, the conference that we had here at GIMPA in 2016 on the ICC in Africa. And through that, we decided to establish a center to focus on international criminal law and justice in Africa, to sort of educate people, to engage in research, advocacy on the ideals of international criminal law and justice on the continent, and to sort of curb global impunity generally.
The Africa Center for International Criminal Justice at GIMPA Law School is a unique center whose equivalence perhaps doesn't exist. It came out of a rather curious event. Some may call it curious because of the circumstances under which it arose. But a curious event that held at GIMPA sometime in 2016, when the law school decided to host an event on international criminal justice in Africa. So in the lead up to the conference, the contest of whether or not the international criminal justice established under the ICC was a neutral, global project designed to prevent international criminality was a contested one. And a lot of people actually thought that the ICC was sort of a conspiracy against Africans. It was designed to, as it were, exploit Africans and to undermine the African states by hauling former heads of states who have been accused of criminality before the International Criminal Court.
I'm very proud of my association with the African Center of International Criminal Justice. When we worked on creating the center, Dina Bucci and I really wanted to create a platform for open, research-based discussions on the court, to understand the work on the ICC, to understand the structure, the procedures, the limitations of the court. And we wanted to make sure that African voices, the different perspectives that exist in the continent on the court, were heard. And I believe we have been successful in doing that. And in reality, I think my expectations have been surpassed. I'm glad to see that the center has grown under the leadership of Dina Jumanbudu and all those that have really worked very hard to make the center what it is today.
The ICC and the GIMPA Law School enjoy quite a long tradition of collaboration. As far back as 2016, GIMPA Law School was the first law school in Ghana to participate in the ICC Moot Court competition, and we have continued to participate in the competition since that time. In terms of the law school's collaboration with the court itself, we have had the privilege and the pleasure to invite and welcome very distinguished personalities such as the former prosecutor of the court, Madame Fatou Bensouda, the president of the ICC, as well as other key members of the ICC, including prosecutors who have come here to do several training workshops and other events with the faculty.
After the launching of the center, I had the opportunity to be invited as a trainer and guest lecturer at the GIMPA Law School, and that opportunity allowed me to engage with many I would say students, legal practitioners, prosecutors, even correctional officers and media practitioners on international criminal law, international criminal justice. And I think when it all started in 2016, there was a lot of perception, probably wrong view on the Africa and ICC relationship. And we had to actually engage on that and discuss with the students and the audience in those trainings about what the ICC is, what it does, what is the role of African states, African communities in actually shaping international criminal justice discourse. And I think over time, those trainings allow many of those attending to understand the way we work, in particular the Office of the Prosecutor's work, the cases that came from Africa, and the fact that everything is guided by the law at the ICC.
Many years ago, before I joined GIMPA, I was a practitioner. I worked with government. I was a legal advisor in the military, where Some of my roles had been to advise military commanders on international criminal law. At the time, there was an invitation that was sent to the military, for it to send personnel for training in international criminal law and justice, and I was privileged to have been chosen. That was a program that was very useful to the kind of work that I was doing back in the days.
The center I have been following has been doing wonderful work in the area of research, and indeed the Gimpa Law School has mounted a whole Master of Law programs on international criminal justice. Again, that is a first, and that demonstrates the work of the center and how it's growing and evolving into what it has become.
The center has grown over these few years, and I'm also proud to be part of the faculty. We have developed new programs. Today, the LLM programs are running, and we do so and teach and develop a new cadre of international law experts, international criminal justice experts, who are going to take the subject forward in terms of practice and also publication and research. Currently, I am teaching an interesting course, International Criminal Tribunals from an African perspective, and also teaching advanced international human rights. It has been a wonderful experience. And I see students who are full of action, who are full of ideas, new thoughts, breaking new ground. And it's a great joy that today we have this wonderful collaboration with the International Criminal Court.
During COVID-19, when the world experienced total lockdown, the center resiliently held a series of webinars on COVID-19 related legal topics and developed numerous policy papers that positively influenced the policymakers. I have also witnessed great collaboration between the center and my home university, the University of Nairobi. This is both from the perspective of the lecturers as well as my own students. I'm therefore very grateful for this association with the center as an adjunct lecturer in international criminal law and transnational crimes, as well as scholarly seminars in international criminal law.
My teaching experience on the LLM program has been interesting. One would say that it's almost as if the world events were arranged to correspond with the topics and the subjects we had lined up for the Advanced International Law course. Students came in obviously with interesting views, and we've had a nice time thinking about how international law is changing to correspond with the times, how international law has remained static in certain other parts, almost as though other things are not happening in the world. It's been an interesting experience, and we can only hope that we receive more students who will bring more richness to the program.
GIMPA decided to start an LLM in international criminal law and justice. Immediately I heard about the program, I thought that this is where I belong. My interest is here. And so I enrolled into the program, and I can tell you that it's been a beautiful experience so far. From the courses that we have done, particularly during our first semester and now in our second semester, has enlightened me. It has brought me more understanding of the work of the International Criminal Court, the need for impunity to be stopped all over our world and all over the continent of Africa, and also the need for a better understanding when it comes to the role of the International Criminal Court in fighting impunity on the African continent.
I had just finished a one-week training session with some prosecutors from the International Criminal Court when I heard about the LLM program in International Criminal Law and Justice that GIMPA was offering. My interest was piqued at the training program, so when I heard about the course, I decided to enroll and learn more about the tenets of international criminal justice. My journey so far has been nothing short of amazing. Apart from the knowledge that I have acquired, I have also been given the opportunity to teach some LLB students who are offering international criminal law and justice as an elective. This has also piqued my interest in the world of academia, and I hope to explore that field after a successful completion of this program.
As part of the program, I happen to have been part of the students selected for the summer school program in Utrecht. At the International Criminal Court, we were exposed to the day-to-day activities of the courts, and also sat in the hearing of Muhammad Abdul Saeed Khani, who was being charged for crimes against humanity and war crimes.
It's also important to say that the fact that GIMPA Law School or the African Center of International Criminal Justice has a partnership, an agreement with the ICC is very important. I think on the continent that's the only, I would say, institution that has this kind of partnership that allows with the LLM programs, students to actually travel to The Hague for summer course and to learn more by visiting the court, by interacting with those who are working at the court, whether they are prosecutors, international cooperation advisor, they are judges, or they are legal officers, or alike.
Some of the benefits from joining the GIMPA Law School has been the practical experiences I have obtained from the school. From being able to teach at the undergraduate level, which has exposed me to academia, which would have been a field I wouldn't have explored, looking at the fact that I wanted to become a professional lawyer, but now has become something I am quite keen about. I believe that this course not only exposes you to experiences about international law, but also gives you the opportunity to think critically, assist you with your advocacy skills, and also help you in your everyday life.
My experience at the GIMPA Law School has been nothing short of transformative, both academically and personally. The lectures and seminars we have at the GIMPA Law School have broadened my understanding on international criminal law. It has also helped me understand how international law strives to address some of the heinous crimes known to humanity. Being at the faculty has helped me broaden my knowledge, improve my skill set, and boost my confidence. I would highly recommend this program to anyone who is interested.
I'm delighted to have the opportunity of broadly summing up the historical facts surrounding the establishment of the ACICJ and the fact that it continues to grow and evolve. And I do hope that with the coming in of the current prosecutor, whom I will take the opportunity of welcoming to Ghana, I do hope that the center will continue to grow in leap and bounds, and that the work of the center will continue to shape the narrative, influence the narrative around the ICC and its work concerning Africa.
Students enrolled in GIMPA, whether at the master's degree level or even at the LLB level, they get to be exposed at the early stage to international criminal law in practice. And the relationship we have with the ICC also ensures that they get that practical understanding and appreciation of how the international criminal law and justice regime works in reality. Because of our relationship with the ICC, we're able to get guest lectures from the ICC to come down to Ghana to deliver lectures, to deliver virtual lectures, and we're even privileged now to have the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to take time out of his busy schedule to come to us here in Ghana at GIMPA to deliver this public lecture. And so I think the students of GIMPA are in a very unique position, and they stand to gain a lot from the exposure that we're giving them in this particular field of international law.
Mr. Chairman, Rector of the Institute, Chair of the GIMPA Council, the Honorable Lady Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency, the Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I respectfully and humbly ask that I stand on an already existing protocol. I have the great pleasure and honor of introducing the keynote speaker for this third edition of the Eminent Public Lecture Series here at GIMPA. The speaker for today's public lecture is a holder of a bachelor's degree with honors from King's College, University of London, in addition to various other degrees and qualifications. He is a barrister in the King's Council with more than 30 years of professional experience as an international criminal law and human rights lawyer. He's a bencher of Lincoln's Inn and was appointed a recorder of the Crown Court in 2018. He was selected as the second president of the ICC Bar Association in July 2017 and is a worldwide ambassador of the African Bar Association. He has published a number of leading texts on international criminal law and is the co-author of Archbold International Criminal Courts, now in US 5th edition. Mr. Chair, before taking up his current role, our speaker was an Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and served as the first special advisor and head of the United Nations investigative team to promote accountability for crimes committed by ISIL in Iraq between 2018 to 2021. He has extensive experience as a prosecutor, victims counsel, and defense lawyer in domestic and international criminal tribunals, including but not limited to the International Criminal Court, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, International Tribunal for former Yugoslavia, the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, the Special Tribunal for Lebanon, and the Special Court for Sierra Leone. He has also represented victims of human rights violations in Africa and Asia. Finally, on the 12th of February 2021, he was elected as prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ICC, at the 19th session of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute in New York, and was sworn in on 16th June 2021. Mr. Chairman, Honorable Lady Chief Justice, everyone present here, please help me give a very warm Gimpa welcome to the speaker for this third eminent public lecture, His Excellency Karim Assad Ahmad Khan, KC. Your Excellency.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Ladyship, Chief Justice. Your Ladyship, Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, Chair, Rector of Gimba, my dear brother, Professor Bonsu, Dean of Gimpa, Emir of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, members of the higher judiciary, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the Republic of Ghana, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor, a great pleasure to be here with you today. And I've been asked to speak for about half an hour, but I'm very worried that in the fine weather, some of you may fall asleep. So please, even if you fall asleep, view that as an unintended benefit of having a lawyer speak. Ghana has a very special place in my heart. It is, of course, a very important country in the world. It is, of course, a very respected state. It has just finished its term, being a non-permanent member of the Security Council at a very perilous moment. The first African I ever met was a Ghanaian. It must have been 1972 or 1973, and there was the great Emir, Maulana Dr. Abdul Wahab Adam, and he used to come to London very frequently, and he'd also stay with my late father and my mother, with his wife also. And I was so touched by his genuineness, by his kindness, by his learning, and by his wisdom, that because of that interaction, I'm sure always Africa, not only Ghana, had a very special place in my heart. So, after a long time wishing and praying to set foot on this very special land, I feel very blessed and very humbled to actually have the chance to do so. And this morning, I went to the President Nkrumah Memorial Park, and I was shown around, and one sees how far Ghana has come since 1957. And on the wall, there was one of the many quotes of the late founding president of the Republic of Ghana, and he stated that, and I quote, "We aim at the elimination of the exploitation of man by man, the abolition of racial discrimination, and the equality of all before the law." He gave this quote as part of a speech on what is actually Human Rights Day, the 10th of December, 1963. "We aim at the elimination of the exploitation of man by man, the abolition of racial discrimination, and the equality of all before the law." Just reflect upon that. Ultimately, today's discussion, all international law, all domestic law, is founded on that fundamental principle that we are to barbarity to a world in which the law is above all of us, protects. The law prevents targeting of people based upon their race or their religion or their gender. It forbids persecution, and it allows every individual to try to fulfill their potential unhindered by any form of racism or oppression. After all, that was the promise of the United Nations in the aftermath of the Second World War, when the scars of the world were still raw. The bleeding had not stopped. And there was a promise in the Charter of the United Nations, a promise that never again would humanity descend to the abyss, the pits of despair that so much of the world suffered. Well, looking around the world, turning on television screens, listening to the radio, we see, unfortunately, we have a lot of work to do. Because the promise of never again is brought into stark relief by the experience of so many of our brothers and sisters around the world. Just casting a glance at the globe, we see misery and we hear tears. We see pain and anguish. And the ICC is investigating matters in Venezuela, in Afghanistan, in Myanmar, the plight of the Rohingya, in the Philippines, in Palestine, in Israel, in Sudan, in Libya, in the DRC, Mali, in Ukraine, in Georgia, and that's not exhaustive. We have 17 active investigations. So let's look at ourselves very honestly in the mirror. Let's look at the promises of the United Nations Charter. Let's look at the promises around the world have made, that this is the age of reason, this is the age of enlightenment, this is the age where finally, as man sends rovers to Mars and spaceships can miraculously descend and land in chopsticks, this amazing technology, the understanding of the genome, we see so many base crimes around the world. And this is really an affliction throughout the history of humanity, because it was in Elizabethan times, Elizabeth of William Shakespeare, that he wrote, William Shakespeare wrote, "Robes and furred gowns hide all, plate sin with gold, and the strong lance of justice hurtless breaks. Arm it with rags, and a pygmy straw doth pierce it." This idea that money and power cure protection, and poverty and weakness means the law comes down on the citizen as like a ton of bricks, is something that we've seen in different states, but also it's a perception that's there internationally, that the law is not there equally for all. The law is not there to protect everybody. And I think this is one of the reasons why this public lecture is an important moment. The fact that Ghana, a country of stability, of security, of progress, has invested in this manner at the ACICJ, at the Gimpa Law School, is testament to Ghana's potential and also its vision for its future. I was going to mention, Professor, the master's degree available, the elective of doing international law in the bachelor's, but you have already taken the jackpot by mentioning that yourself. But I will say, Professor, your office is very smart indeed, that I saw on the video just now. You know, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice of Ghana, said yesterday that he has tabled a motion so that Parliament will consider a bill that will seek to domesticate the Rome Statute. And I applaud that. I think that is extremely important. It's important for us to work together, and it's important for me to recognize very publicly, as I did when I was sworn in on the 16th of June 2021, that international law is not the birthright of one part of the world. I put it very bluntly, the Rome Statute is not owned by Italy. The Geneva Conventions are not owned by Switzerland. The Hague Regulations are not owned by the Kingdom of the Netherlands. They're owned by humanity. They are the product of Africa and Asia and Latin America and Europe and all people everywhere in the world. And unless we live that, unless we apply the law in that manner, unless we embrace the diversity of legal experiences around the world, the law will become weaker, because it will be viewed as a preserve of some that is used against others, as against the preserve of all humanity by dint of our humanity, by dint of being part of this same species. And yes, there are many truths that can be spoken. International law is a work in progress. It is far from perfect. It has been very imperfectly applied. We have had prohibitions on slavery, and yet slavery exists even today in modern forms, in different forms. We see various conventions that were there to give the rights, such as the Magna Carta of 1215 or the 1688 Bill of Rights for some people of some races, of some colors. And yet when these grand manifestations were uttered, we saw slavery, apartheid, and discrimination. So how do we move things forward at the international level? I think it's by realizing justice is best done at home. The support of you, the future lawyers, the future defense counsel, prosecutors, maybe a chief justice or two in this audience, your own belief, this burning desire to apply the law, is the best guarantee of Ghana's stability, security, and progress. The realization that everybody has a part to play. Now, I'll ask Racine to tell me so in 25 minutes, so I don't go on too much. But the ICC also is not perfect. It's about 20 years old. There's been successes and there's been failures. There's been stumbles along the way. And also, I think even we are still learning. Let's accept that basic premise. I'm learning, the office is learning, and the court is learning. It is rather ironic that in the term of my predecessor, Her Excellency Fatou Bensouda, there was a crisis in the African continent vis-à-vis the International Criminal Court at a time when the court was led by a Gambian lawyer. There were allegations that the court was working against Africa. So I won't go into detail except to say that respect, tone is very important in life. How one engages with countries, with nations that have suffered slavery and colonialism is very important in life. How one actually sees the truth, because the first country to ratify the Rome Statute was Senegal. And the first referrals came from Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic. These are African countries, African leaders seeking to help ensure that their people and their citizens were not outside the law. Now I'm pleased to say, so I know I'll be speaking to some of the, I think, Professor, the master's students later on in the evening, that with quite some effort from the team, including Dihiru, who's here, and Mamadou Racine Lee, we have moved things considerably. That for the first time in 17 years, when I became prosecutor, after a gap of 17 years, I was the first prosecutor invited back to the African Union Heads of State Summit, and I've been invited back every year since. This is important because we've got to work with state parties and non-state parties, and the biggest block, the biggest biggest region of state parties is the Africa Group. The Africa Group is the strongest, largest group that have declared that they own the law as much as anybody else. And we're trying to do this more broadly, not just with the African Union, with the Association of Central American and Caribbean states. We're trying to build new partnerships. We're trying to actually build new dialogues with not just GIMBA, but other universities around the world, other corporations as well. But on the question of deterrence, it's a very large topic, and it's very controversial, even domestically. Some criminologists have discussed that one of the factors for deterrence is not the sentence, but the certainty of arrest and prosecution. And the ICC, we have had trials, for example, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have had judges who've heard that evidence, have issued convictions, 3 different convictions in the case of Lubanga, Katanga, and Ntaganda. But the hell for so many in the Democratic Republic of Congo continues. So one can't just scratch the surface. One can't scratch and sniff and move on. One needs to understand and learn about communities, different locations, different drivers of criminality, and extract the poison by using justice. This became quite clear to me when I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo. I think it was last year, or 2022 perhaps, 2022. And I spoke to the Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Denis Mukwege. He won the Nobel Peace Prize with Nadia Murad in 2018. And he operates the Pansy Clinic. And when I went there, I saw all these little girls holding babies. And they were children themselves, and those babies were born of rape. And he gave an example of the power of law, that he was operating in one area, and he was trying to repair the damage, the tears to little girls 8-month-old to 11 years old that had been raped. And when an individual called Kavumu, he was a member of a regional parliament, when domestically, not at the ICC, domestically, when domestically Parliament had removed his immunity as a member of a provincial court, and when he and 11 other people were prosecuted, instead of Dr. Dennis Mukwege sewing up, trying to repair 8 children or babies a week, it went down to 0. Can you imagine that? So the lesson is one needs to go narrower and deeper, not spread ourselves too thin in which we give the appearance of ticking a box, but realize how criminal justice works, which is trying to go deep, which of course implicates the budget of the ICC, but also trying to build relationships. We're trying to do that now with the Memorandum of Understanding I've signed with President Tshisekedi, which is trying to make sure that the DRC deals with criminality more broadly, and we also take on our responsibilities. But having a composite, a holistic approach is a way in which justice can hopefully be more effective. And as you all know, in terms of Ghana, it was Kofi Annan who, as always very eloquently said, and I quote, that the Rome Statute was, quote, a gift of hope to future generations and a giant step forward in the march towards universal human rights and the rule of law. And he thought it was, like many others, it would be quite impossible. But what are the challenges? The challenges are politics and human nature and resources, and really not just talking the talk that we value all life equally. Black life matters as much as a white life, or an Asian life matters as much as a white life, or a life in Latin America or a poor life matters as much as a rich life. It really requires an effort to do better and to enforce. And what have we seen? We saw very lofty principles were not executed. Now, fast forward almost 20 years, and I went to Kalma Camp a couple of years ago. Kalma Camp has about 30,000 people. It's in Darfur. Some of those children had been born in that camp and were now speak up and speak out for the equality of humanity, for states to speak up and speak out. But if this is not the moment to apply the law equally, when will that moment be? And will even we get the opportunity for our children to remedy the problems, the deficiencies of past generations and those of us in influence today? So, the 1990s, when the Rome Statute was signed, are a distant memory. We have a dysfunctional Security Council. We have a paralyzed Security Council. We have major power conflicts underway. And it's not all abysmal, though, because this is an opportunity for other leaders, other countries, to stand up and be the insulation to stop the short-circuiting of the international system, to help the major powers address problems that are the problems of the world. Nobody will be unaffected by wider conflagration. And this is not an exaggeration. Donald Tusk of Poland, former president of the European Commission, stated some months ago that this generation, all of us, our children, this is the pre-war generation. Just reflect on that. A senior leader like that saying this is the pre-war generation. Countries are rearming. President Biden said in 2022, he mentioned the risk of Armageddon. You've seen articles published more recently about the dangers and the concerns in 2022 that tactical nuclear weapons may be used by the Russian Federation, and you heard President Putin talk about using hypersonic missiles as if it's a computer game. Quite rightly, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee awarded the Nobel Prize just a few days ago to those great Japanese who saw the evil, the horror, the tyranny, the generational conflicts of atomic weapons, and who tried to let anybody who has eyes to see say never again that nightmare. But it requires not just a prize and a medal, it requires everybody to step up and speak up. In a room of the most distinguished senior lawyer in the land, Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, many lords and ladies of the senior courts, higher courts of Ghana, the Deputy Attorney General, I say one thing with great humility. You are studying the law at Gimba, black letter law, principles. But underneath the law, there is a principle, non injusta, non est lex. An unjust law cannot be law. And law is different, has a different shade to justice. Law gives an advantage to those that have studied it. Justice is everybody's birthright. People in the fields, ladies carrying water on their heads, children playing and dreaming of playing football or having fun or studying. And this idea that justice is different and separate from lawyers is very important, because international justice certainly is too important to leave to the prosecutor of the ICC. It is too important with respect to leave to the judges of the ICC. It must be the business of every man, woman, and child around the world. Unless we take on that responsibility, not to be spectators, we're going to see more crimes, more atrocities around the world. Only if there is a reawakening that we've seen in other areas, the environmental movement. We know you don't need to be an environmental scientist to care about the environment. this awakening of the consciousness that this is a shared planet, a shared ecosystem, was one of the distinguishing marks of progress. But we need to do more in the sense of the law, to realize this is a shared responsibility. Now, 2 points. In the ICC, I'm very lucky that my deputy prosecutor, I have 2 deputies, one is from Fiji, one is from Senegal. I have very eminent special advisors that I've appointed, including His Excellency Adama Dieng, who is the Secretary General's Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, and also Muhammad Chandi Othman, who is the Chief Justice of Tanzania, and also head of the Dag Hammarskjöld inquiry, and also many other senior positions. But when I said the law is owned from everybody, it also can be viewed, because I know this is a religious country, it can also be viewed from another perspective. Now I'll talk as a Muslim. In the Holy Quran, it is said that there are no people on earth for whom they have not been given a warner, they have not been given a prophet. Now, whilst of course in the Torah or the Bible or the Quran, mostly the Judaic prophets are mentioned, the Quran is explicit in this. So clearly, whether it's in the Aborigines of Australia, whether it's different parts of Africa, whether it's Asia, Confucius, Prophet Confucius, peace upon him, or Prophet Krishna, Prophet Socrates, prophets have gone to all people. Why do I say this? Because normally with prophet comes laws. We know the common law took strength from canon law. Where does canon law come from? I say this because if one understands the cultural context, if one understands the cultural context, the law becomes stronger. So if you'll forgive me going on a little bit longer, because it's important to your willingness to embrace the law. Don't ever feel second best. Don't ever feel people in The Hague or in Rome or in Geneva know more than you. It's nonsense. I put a quote, again from the back of my papers, from when I went to the park today, and it's a wonderful quote from President Nkrumah. Those who would judge us merely by the heights achieved would do well to remember the depths from which we started. So look where you're going, look where the continent is going, and with that courage, with that steadfastness, with that ambition to be better, with that ambition to be world beaters, embrace the law and contribute to it. I had the honor of knowing the Muslim world's first Nobel Prize winner. His name, he's a member of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. The Amir Jamaat knew him very well. I knew him very well. I was young, of course. His name was Professor Dr. Abdus Salam. He received the Nobel Prize in Theoretical Physics in 1979, I think it was. Now, the reason I mention him is that the first black American president of the American Society of Theoretical Physics, he wrote a paper, What Abdus Salam Taught Me About Jazz. So if you don't fall asleep, let me just tell you the heart of it. He said that before there was jazz, people enjoyed music. We had classical music, Mozart and Beethoven. We had other types of music using, in Europe, Western instruments. Of course, here we have some wonderful Ghanaian music. But his point was nobody thought they were poor. Everybody enjoyed that music. But when black Africans who had freed from slavery started playing those same instruments with a different aesthetic, with a different style, jazz was born. People didn't know they yearned for it. They didn't know they were lacking something. But now, if you love jazz, you think, gosh, what an amazing aspect. So he made, I think, a very insightful point. That applies to all human endeavor. His view was that in theoretical physics, there's an aesthetic, an African aesthetic, an Asian aesthetic, a European aesthetic. All parts of the world, in relation to the sciences, if you can use your local cultures, your local learning with some scientific aspects, you will get something like jazz. You would actually get advances because of this very felicitous combination of different regions and different understandings. And he founded what is today called the Abdus Salam Center, the United Nations Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, which is particularly focused on scientists from the developing world, whether it's from Africa or Asia or Latin America. So I simply raise this because please don't think it's just I'm boring you to death. If you can realize that your contributions are as valuable, as profound as somebody from The Hague or London or Paris or New York or Washington, you will have that confidence to come in and realize that this law is living. We have to find better, more creative ways to implement the law. There have been bricklayers. We lay bricks, we are manual laborers trying to apply the law and build something that is meant to protect our children, our brothers and sisters around the world. But we need many hands, and we need also African talent to make sure that it's better designed and more waterproof than what we've seen at the moment. So there's a lot more I can say. Mamadou Racine, I'm asking you, how long have I been? I should be about finished. So let me just wrap up maybe with these final reflections. Study the law, apply the law, demand leaders give life to their promises that everybody matters equally. Realize the transitory nature of positions we hold. We're all going to be gone in a blink of an eye. And in the nanoseconds, relatively speaking, that we occupy positions, let's try to serve humanity so when we're gone, maybe we had the chance that the big positions, the learning, the sacrifices of your parents to study, your communities, we can feel that we've moved the world away from criminality towards more legality, away from cruelty towards more kindness. The mantra of my own community is love for all, hatred for none. Kindness, empathy are also found in justice. And that ultimately is what the law is there to bring. Thank you so much for the honor of saying a few words.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Shall we thank him with another round of applause? Thank you so much for the honor. My personal takeaway has to be that the law is a different shade from justice. And while the law gives an advantage to those who have studied it, justice is a birthright for everybody. And so the mere understanding and knowledge of the law does not translate into justice. Thank you very much once again. Before we take our next round of performance, I quickly want to acknowledge a few other dignitaries who have joined us. And among them principally is His Excellency Jeroen Vel, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands in Ghana. If you are here, thank you very much for joining us. We also have here Justice Rita Ajimambudu, a High Court Justice, and the mother of the Dean of the Gimpa law. So I guess without her, the dean wouldn't be here. We are grateful for attending. And we have the directors and the lecturers from the other schools of GIMPA also here present. If you are here, please give us a wave, the directors and lecturers from the other schools of GIMPA. Thank you for coming. And importantly, because of how important this occasion is, we also invited, and we have present here, deans and lecturers from other faculties of law across the country, from the University of Cape Coast, from Lancaster University, and from CAF University. If you are here, kindly give us a wave, and we thank you for coming all the way to support us and be with us here this afternoon. Our next performance is by a gentleman who is known as Nana Asase, which translates into English as King of the Earth. He is a poet, a literary coach, and a writer. And for those of you who have encountered him, you would know that he only not performs, but is very good at it. Shall we welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Nana Asase to give us a performance.